What's going on, everybody? Josh here with Scrapyard Films, and today I got another tutorial for you. In this one, I'm going to be showing you how to get the absolute best recording settings using OBS, StreamElements OBS, and Streamlabs OBS. These settings I'm going to be showing you are the most compatible for putting into a video editor, which most people do when they record OBS stuff is they edit their video right afterwards. So instead of not knowing and recording in something kind of incompatible or where the audio is off, these settings will provide you the most stable and high quality footage. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get the best recording settings using your AMD encoder. If you want to know the best settings using your X264 processor or your NVIDIA encoder, then check the links in the description below because I'll put those videos there. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so I have OBS loaded up right here. The first thing you want to make sure is you have OBS updated to at least version 24. If it's not, you can go to OBS's website and update it, or you can download the link in the description if you want to use StreamElements like I am today. Once it's fully updated, let's go ahead and hit Settings. Once you click Settings, a window will appear, and it may look a little bit different for Streamlabs, but all the information is still going to be exactly as it is in OBS and StreamElements. Once you load it up, find your way to the Video tab, and you're going to see four options. Base canvas resolution, you're going to want to match this to whatever your monitor is. So if your monitor is 1080p, make sure it's 1920 by 1080. Output scaled resolution, we want to go ahead and keep this exactly the same as base canvas resolution. If we're going to downscale, we want to do that in editing, not in the recording phase. For downscale filter, we are not downscaling, so this doesn't matter, so you can leave it at bilinear. For frames per second, we're going to keep it on common FPS value and click the drop down, and we're going to see all the frame rates, and we're going to choose 60 because that'll give us the most fluid recording motion. Next, make your way to the Output tab. For output mode, it may be on simple, so go ahead and click the drop down and change it to advanced. Then click on the Recording tab. From here, we're going to keep the type standard. For recording path, you can press browse and tell it where you want to put your OBS recordings. Next, for recording format, we're going to see a bunch of options here, but the format we're going to choose is MP4. By default, it may be on FLV, and we want to get rid of that. MP4 is the most compatible video file format that can be put in any editor. MOVs are the next choice, but sometimes they require extra codecs to be installed, but MP4s by far are the best choice for editing. Next, let's go down to the encoder, and then we're going to see a couple options. Yours may look a little bit different, but for the most part, if you have an AMD graphics card installed and updated, OBS will detect it and it will show you something along the lines of H264 AVC encoder or H265 HEVC encoder with AMD in parentheses to the right of it. This means it's going to be using your graphics card to encode your recording. Now there's a slight difference between H264 AVC and H265 HEVC. They both will produce you an MP4 file, but they're going to be coding it a little bit differently. I'll explain both of them, but we're going to start with H264. So choose that one. Next, make sure Rescale Output is unchecked. For custom muxer settings, you can leave that blank because we're not going to be converting this at all. We're going to already keep it in the file format that works. Go down to preset and you're going to see a few options. We're going to stick with the recording option under preset. So click on that one. Next, preset quality, we'll see speed, balance, and quality. This basically means how good is your graphics card and how well it's going to create this video. You'll want to choose speed if you have an AMD graphics card that's probably over 4 or 5 years old. If you have a graphics card that's about 2 to 3 years old, you want to choose balanced. And if you have a really nice newer graphics card, you can choose quality. Pre-pass mode, by default this is disabled, but you can enable it, and that can increase the quality just a little bit of your recording, but it will be a little bit more taxing on your GPU. So it's your call. You can try recording with both of them and see which looks better, but you most likely won't tell the difference, so I'm just going to keep mine disabled. Next is target bitrate. It's going to by default choose 10,000, which is 10 megabits per second. And from what I know about recording videos on DSLRs, the average bitrate for a 1080p 60 frames per second video is about 40. That's 40 megabits per second, so your file size is going to be pretty big if you record a really long video, but your quality is going to be impeccable. So I'm going to change that to 40. Peak bitrate, I'm going to go ahead and put that at 40,000 as well, because that's the maximum peak I want the bitrate to be at. Keyframe interval, by default, that's going to be 2. You can change this to 1 if you wanted. That will increase the quality, but it may also increase the file size and the taxing on your graphics card. But between 1 and 2, you're really not going to tell a difference because your bitrate is so high. So I'm going to leave mine at 2. For view mode, I'm going to keep this basic because we don't need to go in any of the details there. And that's going to wrap it up for H264. Look at these settings. These are the best settings that I've found. And if you have a pretty decent graphics card, these are going to be the best settings for you. Next, let's go over to H.265 and check out those settings. So the thing about H.265 is that it codes your MP4 just a little bit differently. It uses a different type of codec that actually technically isn't royalty free, but you don't have to pay anything to use this. This format technically records the same quality but at less of a file size, but the way it's coded is far less compatible in any kind of video editor. Some players don't even know how to read this file. It can provide unreliable audio as well, and the only benefit you'll really see from this is a little bit smaller of a file size. So let's look at these settings. Everything is going to be staying the same. Quality preset, you'll still see speed, balanced, and quality. I'm going to choose quality from my graphics card. But under there, we're going to see rate control method. If you click that down, you're going to see 4 options: constant QP, constant bitrate, variable bitrate, peak constrained, and variable bitrate latency constrained. You can choose any of the bottom 3, and they're going to provide pretty much the same result. You're just going to tell it a bitrate, and then it's going to do its best to keep that bitrate. There's really not too much of a difference in the way the bitrate works for constant and variable, but coding wise they are slightly different. But we're not going to choose any of those. We're going to choose constant QP. Now what constant QP is, it's basically a quality scale. We're not going to tell it a bitrate, we're going to give it a value on the scale of quality. And that scale number is from 0, which is lossless, to 51, which is the absolute worst. So the lower number you go on the scale, the bigger your file size is going to be. The higher number you go on the scale, the lower your file size is going to be. When we choose constant QP, 2 things will come up: iframe QP and pframe QP. When setting your value, you want to make sure iframe and pframe are the same. Now as for the value, the best number that I've found for really good quality and still decent file size is 15. Any lower of a number than that, you're really not going to see any kind of quality difference, but your file size will exponentially get bigger. So we don't want that. 15 is a perfect number for me, but that is, again, if you have a really decent AMD graphics card. If you have a graphics card that's maybe 3 or 4 years old, you can drop this number to 17, 18, or 19. And if you have a really old graphics card, then you probably want to put this number to about 22. But this is where you're going to have to do some tests and find out for yourself which one looks better for you and which one your graphics card can handle. I'd say start with 15 and see if you get any kind of errors. If you don't, check out your video and see how it works. Keyframe interval, again, it's the same. You can keep that one at 2, but you can also put it at 1. You're not going to see a difference. View mode basic, and then you're good to go. Now again, going back to it, I really do not recommend using H.265 because you're going to experience some problems when trying to edit it. And usually when people are recording something in OBS, they're recording it to edit it on a later date. So if you want the most compatible video file, you want to use the H.264 AVC encoder. That's going to provide you the best quality, most compatible video file recording in OBS. And there you have it, the absolute best recording settings for the most compatible video or using OBS, StreamElements, or Streamlabs that you can throw in a video editor and edit with no problems at all. I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, be sure to shoot a like down there, maybe subscribe, because that'll really help me out. I'm trying to hit my new goal of 20,000 subscribers, and I can do that with your help. So thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see y'all in the next video. And I want to give a shout out to all my supporters, especially my super scrappers, LMC, HPL Gamers, and Old Man Beta.